Self-mastery. A concept which has consumed everyone who tries to improve themselves. Discipline, hard work, and sacrifice are all understood as being necessary for self-mastery. The opposite is laziness, comfort, and weakness. Self-mastery is a noble goal to have. You want to become something greater, and so you seek to aim higher. But every time you get up the mountain, you realize you're just at the bottom of the next climb. Whether it's becoming invincible under the sun or succeeding at any goal you have in life, self-mastery is necessary. But if you're not careful, you can be consumed by the need for constant productivity, comparison, and obsession. This is what Vagabond understood about the cost of self-mastery. A sword doesn't simply exist. It is made by man. It did not just come from the heavens. These swords, which were created to make one man stronger than another, have ultimately served to take ourselves further away from the meaning of true strength. If they take us away from true strength, then perhaps swords were created to realize our weaknesses. After all, it is the heavens that made us in the first place. There is no strength that hasn't crossed the path of weakness. Matahachi and Takizo grew up together. Both wanted to grow stronger, go to war, and make a name for themselves. Takizo grew up with nothing and had everything to prove to the world that he was more than just the beast they saw him as. Matahachi grew up rich and spoiled. His whole life was already set for him to rule his family, his wife already chosen for him. He could live his whole life never making a single choice for himself and still live better than most other people. But when war finally came and both men came face to face with their destiny, Takizo faced it head-on while Matahachi ran away, becoming a drunk and incapable of mastering the sword and himself. From the outside perspective, it can look like Takizo, aka Miyamoto Musashi, has entirely mastered himself, while his childhood friend Matahachi is a complete failure. One of them is a master swordsman who achieved everything that he said he would, while the other is lost, constantly wandering from goal to goal without any clear passion for anything that he's chasing. But the two of them are actually more similar than we first think, because on the inside, when we get a look into the minds of Matahachi and Musashi, they both are lost. They are both constantly questioning their path, what they're doing, and who they are. It doesn't matter how many duels Musashi wins, he is constantly wondering if his goal of becoming invincible under the sun is achievable, even worth it, or something that he even wants anymore. It's the same for Matahachi, because every time we see him chasing something he thinks that he wants, whether it's money, status, woman, Musashi, we see he is just as lost, not knowing who he truly is and what he wants. Everyone who is trying to improve themselves, including you and me, thinks that self-improvement is the path towards self-mastery. That the more that we are able to be productive, have a set schedule, routine, following all the habits that we think will improve ourselves, which they do to an extent, whether it's waking up early, practicing our craft. In Musashi's case, it was the sword. For me, it's YouTube. And for you, it's something entirely different. But in all three cases, we're using our external craft, the thing that the world sees as what gives us purpose and value. The more that we chase it, it feels like we're getting closer to mastering ourselves, that we're finally going to be able to reach this peak of the mountain where we no longer have to question ourselves, that we know everything we need to know about ourselves. But this is the self-mastery lie, that the truth is, the more that we seek to improve, to master ourselves, to become more disciplined, to become more productive, the more lost we actually get. And this has happened to me every single time I achieved something that I thought was of value. Whether it was a certain amount of subscribers, views on YouTube, running marathons, And in Musashi's case, all of the duels that he won only made him feel more empty inside because he was looking immediately for the next thing to master, whether it was improving with the sword, whether it was defining himself as being invincible under the sun. Self-mastery is not actually about external productivity and achievement. If this was the case, then the people who have achieved all of their goals would be the ones who have completely mastered themselves. But this isn't the case. What you see is that every time someone achieves something that they think will make them happy, they go out and find something else. The ironic part is that our external world has nothing to do with our internal one. Now I know what you're thinking. That's easier said than done, but if I'm poor, it's hard to feel at peace and to feel free. Now, of course, when you're in a desperate and difficult situation, if you're poor and you're struggling and you're just stressed out of your mind, getting out of that situation will give you more physical and mental resources so that you can dedicate towards mastering yourself. But self-mastery is not the pursuit of more achievements. It is asking yourself, why do you want what you want? Why do you value what you value? And why are you doing what you're doing? These questions sound simple, but if you ask yourself this, you will find the answers to be almost unsettling. There will be parts of your life where you've been doing something on autopilot for so long that you don't realize you're only doing it because someone else told you to do it, not because you truly value that action, that achievement, that goal, that relationship. And this is what Matahachi teaches us through his struggles of learning on how he can become his real self, how he can pursue only what he can do, becoming the storyteller of his journey and that of Musashi's and Sojiro. This is when he truly begins to master himself, when he lets go of his ego, when he stops pursuing Musashi's path, and he really begins to ask himself, what is it that only he can do? Self-mastery is how much are you at peace with yourself? How free do you feel in your life? Chasing external goals gives us an easy to look at path forward. We can see where we want to get to, who we want to be, and what we need to do. But if you've achieved anything that you thought would make you feel happy or content, satisfied in life, you will know that you will have immediately found something else to look forward to achieving. This is because chasing external goals does lead to some level of mastery, improvement in our lives, and us feeling that we've accomplished something. But the internal work that we have to put in to feeling free, to feeling content with ourselves, that we feel we have value outside of our achievements, all of this work comes from searching within, looking at ourselves and seeing who we really are and what we really want. That's why when we're looking towards how to achieve self-mastery, we actually shouldn't look at Musashi. We should be looking at Matahachi, someone who is much more relatable, someone who is much more realistic to compare ourselves to. Because even though he comes across as this bumbling idiot who doesn't know what he wants, is a drunk, is constantly ruled by his desires and impulses, which is all true, there's so many reflections of him in most people, including myself. I can see the version of me that is constantly comparing myself to someone better. In his case, he was constantly comparing himself to Musashi, and because of this, he made Musashi's goals his own, when what he should have been doing was never looking at Musashi in the first place. He could admire Musashi, but he should have been asking himself, if Musashi wasn't around, what would he want to achieve? Who would he want to be? He was also constantly running away from his past mistakes, creating a million excuses for why every single one of his mistakes was reasonable, instead of him admitting that he made a mistake and learning from it. There's a key moment in Matahachi's development in Vagabond where you and I can learn from. It's when he finally admits to his mom that he's been lying, when he finally admits that he's been jealous of Musashi, when he is ready to look at himself and the life that he has lived so far. When he is vulnerable, when he is honest with himself, he can see that the path that he has walked isn't the same as Musashi's, which is a straight path forward. This is what we like to imagine self-mastery is, that all we have to do is look towards the goal, the achievement that we want, and just walk that path. But oftentimes our path looks a lot more like Matahachi's, something that is constantly meandering, where we're doubting if we're even on the right path anymore. But when we look back, we can see that we've walked a vast path. We have moved forward, even if it's not in the ways that we want to. When you and I fail at something that we say we wanted to achieve, that we haven't been as disciplined as we want to, whether it's at the gym, waking up early, accomplishing our goals, we think that we are failing ourselves, that this is something to be ashamed of, that we're straying further from self-mastery, when really, these are lessons for us to learn from. In all of the moments of doubt, in all of the moments of insecurity, and especially in all of the moments of failure, there is something to learn from, teaching you who you really are. Maybe the reason why you keep on failing is because the goal that you're chasing isn't something that you actually want. It's something that you've been told to value by society, others. Maybe the life that you've been living isn't aligned with your values as a person, but you've been keeping this life because you want to make other people around you happy. I would define self-mastery as knowing who you are. It's easier said than done, of course, and it's going to be a lifelong journey of constant discovery. But it's good to know that this is a goal that you have, because most people don't make it a goal in their life to find themselves, to know more about themselves. It's something that we've been conditioned to apparently know by the time we're 18. We're told that we should have our whole life figured out, pick a major, pick a job, a career that we're going to stick with the rest of our lives, that any relationship that ends with a breakup is considered a failure, rather than two people simply growing apart and realizing they're not aligned together anymore. Knowing yourself takes time and commitment. This is what both Musashi and Matahachi had to figure out for themselves. This is not work that came from any of their achievements or any of the time spent around others. Musashi was able to understand and know more about himself when he was truly alone. And it was the same with Matahachi, when he was able to finally look back at the life that he has lived and be honest with himself about who he is and what he wants. That's when you're able to start the journey of self-discovery. That's when you're able to master yourself.